Good afternoon. My name is Yasmina Boulala. I'm a teaching assistant at Journalism Department, Faculty of Mass Communication, Cairo University. I'm going to present a paper entitled Covering the Egyptian Presidential Election 2014 in the Asian Press. In May 2014, Egypt witnessed the second presidential election since the 25th of Jan 2011 revolution. In less than 2 years, Egyptians went twice to the presidential polls. This election was held in difficult circumstances, as after the 30th of June revolution that resulted in the oust of Mohamed Morsi, the Egyptian society was highly polarized. Egyptians were divided into pro-25th of Jan revolution, pro-30 June revolution, pro-political Islam, and others. The election was the event that magnified this conflict and polarization. International media was very interested in covering the Egyptian election in light of the stances that different countries took towards the oust of Mohamed Morsi. So, this study aims at examining how Asian press covered the presidential election in Egypt, as we all know that elections are the pre-existing condition for democracy, and the way in which they are portrayed might say something about the way democracies and political systems are seen. The study tried to answer these questions. What were the characteristics of the Asian newspapers' coverage of the Egyptian election? What were the news sources used in the coverage? What words were used to describe the candidates in the Egyptian election? How did coverage of the Egyptian election differ between the three analyzed newspapers? The study applied cultural analysis approach in order to examine how newspapers from different countries with different media systems covered the same event. Concerning the methodology, the study applied quantitative content analysis on a sample from 3 newspapers. The total number of analyzed data was 54, 11 from Japan Times, 21 from Today's Zaman, 22 from Jerusalem Post. 3 English newspapers from 3 Asian countries were chosen as follows: the Japan Times from Japan, Today's Zaman from Turkey, Jerusalem Post from Israel. Findings concerning the amount of coverage in each newspaper, as we see, the amount of coverage in Jerusalem Post and Today's Zaman was very near, as Jerusalem Post published 22 topics about the election and Today's Zaman published 21 topics, while the amount of coverage in Japan Times came in the 3rd rank, as the newspaper published only 11 topics. Concerning the topics that were presented in each newspaper, as seen from the table, publishing topics about the electoral process came in the 1st rank in Japan Times and Today's Zaman, as the 2 newspapers were interested in publishing about the government's procedures to carry out the election and the statements given by the government concerning the timeline of the election. Publishing topics about the campaign came in the 1st rank in Jerusalem Post, that was very interested in publishing about the activities of the candidates and the statements given by their supporters and opponents. For example, the newspaper published a news story about 6th of April movement, which is a liberal movement opposing Sisi's declaration that he will run for presidency. What was noticeable that publishing topics about the candidates came only in Japan Times, that was interested in publishing features about Sisi, his family, his social life, and the positions he held in the army. Concerning the genre applied in the 3 newspapers, the Japan Times applied different genre in covering the election, for example, reports, news stories, editorial, profile, reader mail, features, analysis. While Today's Zaman depended only on 3 genres, report came in the 1st rank, followed by news stories, then articles. Also, Jerusalem Post depended mainly on news stories, which came in the 1st rank, followed by reports, then features and analysis. As we see, these findings reflect that the 3 newspapers depended mainly on the news genre in covering the election, whether news stories, reports, features, while articles and editorials were totally absent in Jerusalem Post and appeared once in Japan Times and Today's Zaman. Concerning news sources of the coverage, as we see from the figure, news agency came in the 1st rank in the 3 newspapers, mainly Reuters and Associated Press. What was noticeable that Jerusalem Post highly depended on reporters if compared to Japan Times and Today's Zaman. This can be explained that Egypt, as a neighborhood country committed with Israel by a peace treaty, this made Israel very cautious and interested in following up the election and its results. Concerning news sources in the content, as shown in the table, governmental sources like the ministers, the former President Adli Mansour, and the Prime Minister came in the first rank in Jerusalem Post and Today's Zaman, while citizens came in the first rank in Japan Times, as the newspaper was interested in covering the Egyptians' opinions about the election and the candidates. Concerning the candidates, what was very noticeable that Sisi came in the first rank in the 3 newspapers, and the percentage of his appearance was very high if compared to Hamdin Sabahi as shown in the figure. Concerning the coverage of the candidates, what was also noticeable that there was no positive coverage given to Hamdin Sabahi, while Sisi was described in the newspaper as a strong man capable of bringing stability in Egypt. He uses emotional catchphrases when he talks to Egyptians. He became deeply popular as there are Sisi posters, t-shirts, and chocolate bars. Concerning the neutral coverage, Sabahi was described as a leftist politician. He came third in 2012 election. He is one of the popular Nasserist movement. On the other side, Sisi was described as a military figure, Egypt's 8th president since the overthrow of the monarchy in 1953. He is also the latest in a line of Egyptian rulers from the military. Concerning the negative coverage for candidates, what was noticeable that the negative coverage for Hamdin Sabahi came only in Jerusalem Post that described him that he didn't outline a strategy for tackling poverty and unemployment. He is also has very limited support. On the other side, the negative coverage of Sisi came in the first rank in the 3 newspapers, as he was described that he deposed the country's first freely elected leader, and under his watch, security forces has mounted one of the fiercest crackdown against Muslim Brotherhood, and that he is July coup leader. Conclusion: no real difference appeared in the coverage of the 3 newspapers concerning the Egyptian election. The 3 newspapers concentrated more on Sisi as the main candidate in the election while neglecting the other candidate Hamdin Sabahi. The 3 newspapers highly concentrated on the negative characteristics while describing Sisi, considering him the leader of a military coup. No relevance in this study that the difference in media systems, culture, and political stances influenced the coverage of the Egyptian presidential election in the 3 newspapers. Thank you.